Tell the story real quick of your time on the airplane when you were sitting next to a woman who didn't know much about the Bible but had heard of Paul. And the thing that I think is so beautiful about the story was he wrote things 2,000 years ago that are being remembered and talked about and cried over and have changed lives. I mean, he didn't know that was going to happen. He's writing a letter to a church.
Yeah.
So real quick, tell me about that.
Yeah, I got next to a woman, and it was, you get acquainted, and what do you do? What do you do? And I said I was a writer, and she said anything I would recognize. I mentioned Left Behind. She'd heard of it, and she said, "What are you working on now?" And I said, "A novel about the life of Paul." And she said, "Oh, Saint Paul is my favorite saint." And she said she was Catholic, and I said, "Oh, is it because of the majestic things he wrote?" She says, "What did he write?" And it just stunned me. I was like, "He's your favorite saint, but you don't know that he wrote all these letters?" And she said, "Well, they read to us, and I don't really read the Bible." And she said, "He's my favorite saint because I know he was persecuted, and was a missionary and evangelist." And so I start quoting, I said, "Well,
Did you know he said this? Did you know he said this?
And, I'm persuaded that he's able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day." And she just clutched her chest and said, "That's beautiful." And I said, "He wrote, 'I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ.'" And she said, "What else?" And so I'm quoting what I can remember, and of course I'm immersed in it because I'm writing the novel at the time. And she's crying, so it makes me cry, and so I'm quoting these verses. And so she went.
He's very unemotional normally.
So
It's awesome.
So I pull out my phone and I bring up my Bible and I'm reading. So for an hour I'm reading Paul to this woman, and she's sitting there
awesome.
crying. So she said, "You got to send me some of this stuff." So I'm,
It's in a place called the Bible.
yeah, get her address, and I'm sending her books and Bible and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just, and you think, that's what I mentioned too to Dallas about, you can start thinking about yourself as a writer if you've had a bunch of books published or had a lot of sales. When you're writing about a writer whose stuff has lasted 2,000 years, you realize where you stand.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
Right.